Just a few days back, there was a tweet which I saw from Ankita Kumar, and she tweeted to say the only time we seem to be respecting our people from Northeast is when they win a medal. And that is sheer hypocrisy. And that's the reason why we're having this discussion today, that is this really true? Because there are these instances of racist slurs, you condescendingly talk about them. I've seen it myself happening, and in fact, I'm going to let Angelica as well as Suhas Chakma to do the talking. Suhas is from Tripura, Angelica is from Manipur. To you first, Angelica, was I was also going through many of your tweets, and you did make reference to the fact that there have been people around you who actually face these kind of slurs, you possibly you yourself. So, I mean, do you agree that this is exactly what happens? You're still not seen as a part of India, and they look down at you condescendingly?
Well, the fact of the matter is, we are in years, and let me tell you, right from when I was a young girl till now, racism has not stopped at all. It remains a point of conversation, as a point of conversation when there is some attack that happens, when there is some medals being won. For example, now we're discussing this, but it's something that exists perpetually. And unfortunately, the cases of racism has not decreased at all. Of course, there is increase in awareness, but a lot more is needed to be done in this respect.
Suhas, every time someone wins a medal, when you talk about Mary Kom, they put the so-called Northeast, and I really hate using that word because, there's an individual identity of Meghalaya, Tripura, Manipur. Why should you club them together as Northeast? But that's what everyone talks about. It as a cliche way of referring to it. It's been put on a map of India. But, has it been put into a heart and soul of India? And you were referring to this article which I had written many years back because I saw that happening in front of me personally. Is it a fact that you only give them tributes, you remember them, you call them a Beti of India, but rest of the time you just forget? And unless some action is taken against those people who actually peddle these kind of notions, nothing is really going to change. I guess that's the biggest medal you can give to our people who are giving us so much of fame and merit.
I think there is nobody from the Northeast who comes to mainland India. I mean, if there is one mainland India, who doesn't face some kind of discrimination on a regular basis. And it's much easier for people who are slightly, fluent in the local language. Somebody like me, who can converse very easily in Bengali or Hindi, then they can pass through. But imagine somebody who has to struggle even to learn the language. And they face the worst discrimination because sometimes they do not even understand the epithets which are being used against them. I think there are two ways to address this issue. First of all, if I look at it, I think till the invention of the television here, I think people in the Northeast, they themselves did not know about each other. I think the internet and information technology has facilitated that quite a lot and to a large extent. But still, if you want to address the issue of racism, which only comes up either because somebody from the Northeast has received an award, medal, or some brutal attack has taken place, I think there is only one way you could do it. One, the societal level of acceptance and awareness that has to come across. The second issue is you have to allow or take measures saying that this kind of racial discrimination is morally, ethically, legally not acceptable. So what we have is whenever this kind of discussion takes place, we know that people understand that it is morally unacceptable. It's not something expected of a civilized society. But how do you do it? If you do not have a legal protection defining what is a racial discrimination, you cannot tackle it. Today, there are certain words I don't want to repeat here to be accused of committing the offenses, though, there are certain offenses codified in the Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. There are certain words in the lexicon in the Western societies you cannot use against the African origin people. So the only way you can address it, I think, if you bring a law, then it creates awareness. People know that it's not only morally correct, it's legally also not correct. So I always believe that if the government is serious, that you want to confront racial discrimination, it's as simple as bringing a law. If you have brought a law saying that you cannot use these words against the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, you cannot use these words against particular communities. It does no harm to enact a law in the penal code. You could address it. At the end of the day, India is the country, should never forget, which fought against racism. It fought against racism in South Africa. It
Correct.
brought the Apartheid Convention. India was the first one to be included in the group of three to investigate the crime of apartheid in South Africa. And today we cannot say that we do not have racial discrimination, so we do not need the law. There is no society which doesn't have racial, prejudices against the other communities.
But that's the irony of it. We fought against the racism of the British, of the whites, and we do it ourselves. Angelica, there may be laws, but at the end of the day, this is also about mindset. I mean, to give a horrible example, there are anti-rape laws. Rapes don't stop because the mindset doesn't change. As a woman, and I know even men face it from the Northeast, but as a woman, I've seen it in front of me. They think you're available, you're easy because your lifestyle is supposed to be liberal. Yeah, it must have been terrible for you at times when you go out with your friends.
Not just when I'm going out with my friends, Pallavi. It's. I remember with this point in time when I was a 12-year-old, when I had recently moved to New Delhi, right? This was 2004. I was a 12-year-old and I was walking down the street carrying this heavy school bag and going from the bus stop to my house. And it so happened that a man out of nowhere came in front of me. He extended his hand and groped at my barely existing breast. He looked at me and uttered chinky and walked away as if he did nothing wrong. Like, he felt that he did absolutely nothing wrong. I was a 12-year-old. I was frozen. I just stood there numb completely. And since then till now, it's a pattern that I see repeating over and over again when it comes to the Northeastern women. I mean, any women, any community, there is this marginalization that happens, then there is this simultaneous discrimination that happens. Intersectionality is a reality that we need to accept, right? And it's even more so throughout my career, I have had indecent proposals from men who would, who would proposition to me in exchange of money, for my body in exchange of money. And this would be people whom I had even considered friends. So imagine that, and then the free pass they get is, oh, Northeastern women are so progressive, right? And they get away with saying Northeastern women are so progressive, Northeastern women, oh, you guys are liberal, etc. And it's like a free pass to them. So yes, the discrimination that women face is extremely compounded, women from the Northeast. And awareness needs to be brought in. But what I would like to say here is law is also extremely important. When you have a law, then it knows, people come to know about it. There is more
Easier to take
awareness
action.
about it. Yeah. So anti-racial
Okay,
discrimination law is the need of the hour.
okay. But Suhas, many accuse that they live like a ghetto, they all live together. But doesn't that become justified? Because, how else do they protect themselves? I mean, why blame them if they all want to stay together? Because there's no one who's possibly from the neighborhood who's really going to bother to help them. And what about the police? You may have a law in place, but isn't there even a sensitization among them that they can understand the problems that you people face?
Shall I
Well, I
come in,
think,
or is that for Suhas? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
Suhas. Yeah, I'm just kind of winding up. So, yeah.
see, at the end of the day, even if you live in a society, if you say, for example, if you're a scheduled caste, you cannot use certain words against that scheduled caste. So it doesn't matter whether you live together, whether the police will be there to protect or not. I think what I would say is that law is only one part. The other part is actually the education system. So, if you look at the syllabus of the CBSE, or if you look at the national education policy is always about 10 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, etc. It goes on. But nowhere the national education policy stresses that, the diversity of the people needs to be reflected. So we coming from the Northeast possibly know more about Munshi Premchand than people in the areas where Munshi Premchand is very
Exactly.
famous, knowing about the name of the state itself. So the awareness that you inculcate I mean, you have to ingrain it from the childhood. So there are some schools in Delhi, because my children had gone to schools here.
Mm-hmm.
What you see that in some of the private schools, the social science books up to class 8 are not actually made by the NCERT, and you would find that those books are more inclusive if it is prepared by progressive minded people than what the NCERT is bringing out. So all the school education boards in the country, unless they incorporate the diversity of the country, it is not going to be possible only by law itself. So it is not a question of only the people living in the ghettos or economically backward areas. See, people with my higher education, they also perpetrated some of these offenses. I mean, I think your incident, which I had read, and it struck me when you went to a restaurant in Pandera Park. The people who were making
Kandara Park,
comments, or
yeah.
yeah, yeah. See, when you go to a restaurant in Pandara Park, you are supposed to be at least from the higher, or at least upper end of the economic class. So they are not somebody who are not educated; they are very much educated. So where does it come from? And I think until today, the syllabus of this country has not reflected the diversity of the country. And in fact, the last point which I wanted to make is, in this entire freedom struggle, the contribution of the Adivasis has been enormous, not only with Birsa Munda, much before that. But if you look at the contribution of the freedom fighters, you hardly find a center, a paragraph or something about the Adivasis. Then you have to read the history books of
I
Sumit
agree.
Sarkar or somebody else. So there's a problem
And
with
not
it.
only that, Suhas, there are many people who don't even know the capitals of these cities, of these states, like Meghalaya, Tripura. They'll not even know.
Yes,
And which is why I'm
And
going
a
back
lot
to where I
of them are
began
in the
from. I
media.
hate the idea. Yeah, including people in the media. And I don't like this idea of clubbing all of them together as Northeast. I mean, you don't refer to Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, or South India. You take their names. Maybe it's time we start making this beginning that, Meghalaya has its identity, Tripura has. They may belong to the Northeast region, but they're not Northeastern states. Angelica, I'm very sorry to hear about what you say, but I'm not surprised because I've seen that happening in front of me. This has been a short discussion, but this is something which I'm also very shameful of, that this still happens in a country after so many years down, despite the fact that year after year, Tripura, Manipur, Meghalaya actually get so much of medals for us and so much of credit for our country. But thank you very much for joining us on this discussion. It's not going to be the last one. We're going to keep discussing this. But thank you very much, Sohas, and thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Angelica, for this chat on
thank you.
this topic. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for having this show. Thank
Thank
you.
you.